So I started doing them, and I started meditating while I was in that space on my health and stuff. And, you know, uh, I went up on a ridge by the house one morning. I'd taken a bit early, and I had, you know, I wasn't even really thinking about it, but I had this voice come, and what it said to me was maybe my own voice. I don't know, but it said, "Why do you go home every night and drink poison? Why do you do that?" And I didn't have a good answer for it.
Welcome to Sacred Space, where healing, growth, and connection unfold through the power of sacred mushrooms in community. I am your host, Courtney Rose. My journey with sacred mushrooms spans over 11 years. In 2015, my husband Eric and I were arrested for our work with psilocybin, one of the most challenging experiences of my life so far, and one that deepened my commitment to building community with the mushroom. Since then, I've co-founded the world's first public psilocybin retreat center and now Sanctuary Church. Through it all, I've learned this truth. Authentic healing begins when we open our hearts to ourselves, to each other, and to the Creator. This sacred space honors the transformative stories of our members, each a testament to the sacred power of psilocybin. Join us as we explore what it means to live intentionally with this ancient sacrament. Our journey together begins here, and I am honored to walk it with you. Hello, Matt. Thank you so much for being on our Sanctuary podcast today.
Well, Courtney, nice to see you this morning.
Thank you very much. I am so looking forward to this conversation. I want to just jump right into it. First, I want to ask you, I asked this to our last podcast guest, Terry, to open up the episode and help folks listening get to know you a little bit better. I'd like you to fill in this sentence stem, kind of like a question, like a fill in the blank, if you're up for it. Are you up for it? Okay, cool. All right. So it is, if you really knew me, you would know. Fill in the blank.
Oh, if you really knew me, you would know that I spend way too much time in my friggin' garden in the summer.
Wow.
So, I'm just saying,
Yeah. Can you spend too much time in your garden in the summer?
It's something I have said I need to back off from.
Okay.
So, you get these, these obsessions that you can't stop. But I can think of more unhealthy addictions than reading and,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I can think of, worse habits to be around for sure than an obsessive gardener. So, awesome. Thank you for that visual. It's a really nice visual, Matt, in the garden in the summer. Oh, how nice. Well, I'm really looking forward to the folks listening hearing about your journey, specifically with the mushroom, and in community as well, and your journey in spirituality. So could you just start out by talking a little bit more about what brought you to the mushroom, the sacred mushroom?
When I was a young fellow, I'm talking 15, 16, I picked a bunch of panniolus mushrooms in my garden, believe it or not. That was my job when I was a kid. One of them was taking care of the garden. So we got this load of manure, and I was a young pothead, and we got a pile of manure. And I went out one day and it was covered with mushrooms. And I had a buddy with me, and we are like, "Oh, we heard these mushrooms grew on cow manure." So we went and looked them up, and they were Paniolus subaltetus. And so we ate a bunch of them. My mother was down in the kitchen making supper, and we we went down and we looked at each other and we're like, "Oh, they work." So and Ma was like, "You guys, you boys want me to suffer?" We're like, "No, Ma, we're gonna head out." And so we did. So that I had taken acid before then, but I think only once before, and I really liked that. It really, even as I'm talking young, but I just took to it. So when you're that age, you're not, I mean, spirituality was not a thing. I went to church school and I got expelled from church school, and I was totally against any of that stuff, rebel. So, but I'm telling you, those, I just, it wasn't like party thing. It was like, oh, I can remember we went up and sat in an old graveyard, and me and my buddy Nick, and just sitting there in a great, they call them murmurations now. I didn't know what it was then, but a great flock of birds, probably starlings, went over, and they just blossomed into this, it was, uh, it was just so great. And we're sitting there leaning on these gravestones. They were probably 100 years old, in with you know, the, the ancestors kind of. And, so it was just, so we found those, we picked them, all through high school. I'd be picking them out. I found other cow fields around. You had to eat a lot of them, but there were a lot around. And then I got a mushroom kit out of the back of High Times, and I eventually grew some. Yeah, that was a lot of work, but and so those cubensis mushrooms, I still have the books that I had from back in the they were published in the 70s. So that was that, and then life happens. Go to college, went to law school. I didn't, I quit smoking pot. I didn't do anything other than drink in law school, drank, way too much, way too much. And that was, here I am, 59 now, and 3 years ago, maybe more, I had to, decided I had a problem with my alcohol content, consumption, and I did. And so I thought, well, I hadn't had any mushrooms in years. And I thought, well, I'm going to grow some again and take them, because I heard that they'd help get you off booze. And so I did, and I still liked it. I was a little nervous the first time taking them. I I I sat out. My wife was gone. She was gone somewhere for the weekend. I sat out back, watched the sunset, and I ate about 3.5 grams, just chewed them down, dried ones, and and I had a good time. I got really nauseous, which I didn't have before. When I was young, I didn't remember, but so I started doing them, and I started meditating while I was in that space on my health and stuff. And you know, uh, I went up on a ridge by the house one morning. I'd taken a bit early,
Mhm.
and I had, you know, I wasn't even really thinking about it, but I had this voice come, and what said to me, it was maybe my own voice, I don't know, but it said, "Why do you go home every night and drink poison? Why do you do that?" And I didn't have a good answer for it. It was, and again, is it the divine? I don't know. Over the years, I've become spiritual. I became interested in contemporary pagan religion, not having anything to do with mushrooms. And I developed my own spiritual practice quite independently of taking any mushrooms or any kind of psychedelic. But that, I've kind of knitted the two together over the last few years. Uh, and it really, and now you come around to sanctuary. Um, I I finally gave up drinking a week before my first sanctuary ceremony with Yeshua. Uh,
Mhm.
he he wanted, no alcohol, no, you know, I think he even was suggesting you don't eat meat or anything for the week before your ceremony. So I did that, and that was the first time in years that I didn't have one drink. I had cut back a lot. I cut back a lot, but I said I can do this, and I did, and I haven't had a drink since. And it's been almost
Wow.
so. You know, um,
Mm.
that, and since then I've been, I started growing up in the garage again, or up in the spare room. Um, and so I've been taking them, I tried microdosing, not my thing. I like, I'm more of a, you know, jacker up, so
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that over the past.
Well, when you start out eating mushrooms at the graveyard as a youngster,
Yeah.
I can only imagine kind of go up from there.
Yeah. It wasn't, and I have never had a bad time on. I've done LSD a lot, and mushrooms. I've never done any other kind of psychedelic. Um, I've never had a bad time. I know people do. I know it, and I've been with people that do. But um, I don't know. I think some people are just kind of wired to ride it out or something. It's like,
Mhm.
some people don't like licorice. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just having this memory of you at the celebration in Maine, just kind of sitting back, smiling and looking around and just nodding your head and going through your own experience in that way, riding that wave. I mean, that's a lot, Matthew. It's a lot in a year um to go through. I can just only imagine that your routine in life has shifted a lot. Maybe that's not true, but not coming home and alcohol being an outlet. Um I'm so curious, like how have you seen your
Um,
life shift?
well, I feel so much better. And you know, anyone who's listening that thinks they can't kick that, if I think you can. And you do feel so much better. And maybe, my age, I was a contender when I was, 20s and 30s. You wouldn't believe what I could do, but anyway, as consumption. But and it wasn't a good thing. It was not a good thing. And But at the time, it seemed like it was a good thing. But I was scared. I was scared what it would be like to quit. I thought I'd just be a basket case and craving and everything. And, and and I think the mushroom opens up. I mean, it really does. It opens up all these channels. The way I visualize it, especially when I'm deep in, is these doors opening in the sky, um, and you get it. There's nothing beyond, but there is. I don't know, and it just makes you feel like, you know, you don't need you don't need the stuff to feel better because you're okay.
Mhm.
It's very hard to explain, and I
Mhm.
think anyone that's gone through it would know. I mean, that's the thing with psychedelics. You can talk about it, but you can't
Mhm.
uh, until you do it, and then you're like, "Yeah, I know what you're talking about." Uh,
Mhm. Yeah. That whole like lack of ability to properly describe what you're going through. Yes.
yeah.
Understood. Well, I'm curious how your close relationships, like how that's been as you've started really like practicing with the mushroom more and now you're cultivating some. Um, how is how has that been? Are you able to talk about it
Oh,
with your
yeah.
people you're close with?
Well, I'm kind of a loner. I have my wife that we've been together over 30 years. We only got married during COVID because we were worried about, mortality, what's going to happen. But we've been together
Mhm.
30 years. She microdoses. She's done, and I mean, hadn't before, but I started growing them. So that has been fine. She's done, she's done some bigger doses with me, and we did a little summer solstice thing here, um, and it's been good that uh, she quit drinking before I did. We both, some years were drinkers, and she quit well before I did, so that has helped a lot. I think she's very much happy with that, and she likes the microdosing, um, and she does that regularly. So you know, my, here we're up here. We're not from northern Maine. We're from southern Maine. We are really up here on the edge. She teaches classes. People come to her for photography processing. She's got a studio out here.
Mhm.
People come up. I keep in touch with some of my old pals from downstate, but I haven't integrated into this community, and it's hard if you're a lawyer. I think a lot of lawyers, they never integrate into their communities because especially if you're litigating, especially if you're
Mhm.
representing poor people, you know,
Mhm.
you gotta you gotta sue towns, you gotta sue landlords, you gotta sue, car dealerships. People people get nervous around lawyers, especially if you're someone that
No.
has to. I say to people, yeah, I'm gonna have to sue you, unless you do what I think you ought to do. And so that
Mhm.
that makes it, you're kind of an outsider, and that's
Mhm.
okay. That is okay. I'd rather look. I mean, you know me a little bit. I mean, can you imagine me out on a fucking golf course with pole? That's, not
No,
gonna
I
happen.
cannot.
That's what it's not gonna fucking happen. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So how much of that comes up or does it come up when you're in the mushroom space? Just your work?
none.
None.
When I am in the mushroom space, I am in a space that is not, I mean, I quit smoking marijuana because I would get high and it would be all like, anxiety, nerves, worry, blah, blah, blah. What if someone shows, nothing. The mushrooms, it's like setting out on a ship somewhere and you're just cruising. And I feel, I feel like my friggin' brain has been washed out in a good way, like, like a summer shower has, you know how that is. You're outside and you get the summer shower and then everything feels so good and clean. And, that's, what it's like for my brain after I do this. And so I, you know, I, I go out here. I'm walking around in fields around. I don't only do it on Sundays because everyone's in church up here. So I know I'm not going to run into anyone. But my worry is if I do run into them, that I'm going to fucking hug them. So,
Yeah.
so I don't. So far, I don't know what they do. Probably get arrested, and then I wouldn't care.
You're hugging too much out here on these streets, Matthew. You're causing a problem.
Right. So, none of. So I just, um, I feel it makes me feel good, but not in a cannabis way or a alcohol way. Uh, it's just clean. It's like you're traveling. But and you are. I mean, you are. Okay.
Mhm.
So that I don't I it, I don't care about. I have no worries when I'm doing that. I mean,
Mhm.
so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm. Yeah, everyone has such a different experience
Yeah.
in that space. So what do you make of that? Like if you're traveling, like like where are you going?
Well,
Who is it that's going somewhere?
you know, I I'm I have no idea. And you know what? I don't it it doesn't I don't really care. And you know what this reminds me of? You bring this up. Um my sister, who is very, you know, oriented towards improvement and things, and I love her, but she was always like, "Well, what are your goals?" And my manager at work started to try to have these meetings. She's younger than me and has much less experience. And she'll sit there and say, "Well, what are your goals?" I don't have any. I've never had any. I swear to God. I mean, I think that's the problem with people. They have too many fucking goals. Um, and so just ride it. And, you know, um, I, and I don't know. I mean, I do. I mean, you want to do good. You want to be an accomplished person. You want to treat people decent. You want to be liked. All this. Maybe those are goals. But as far as like, you know, a goal, I don't know. I think that's, what that is from. That is from a big bomb of LSD when you're 15. I'm not sure
Mm.
I can recommend it. I mean, I was never the same after that. I wasn't. And I think know, I, I was,
Left you in a place
I,
of embracing the moment.
I am not a normal person. I mean, I know that.
Well, maybe that is one reason you can just enjoy the ride in the mushroom space, like you do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I just, like to be out there. I mean, it can get a little nerve wracking on the upslope,
Mhm.
but once, once you peak out and then start settling, it's really um, good. And that's when you can start um, appreciating our existence and the special nature of our world.
Mhm.
It really is. It is very, um, very special and very precious. And I think, you look at shit like a fucking dragonfly or, dewdrops coming off a flower.
Mhm.
Things that you walk by every day and you don't pay any attention to it. Um, in the mushroom space, they're miracles.
Mhm.
They're, um, you know, for me anyway. So you come
Yeah.
out of that feeling, you know, a real appreciation of how we are. We say at the Mushroom Church, those catechism we do. I can't,
Mhm.
some,
Mhm.
we're one and so on and so forth. We are. I mean, uh,
What about for you? Um, like it can be easy to see the beauty in a flower and a butterfly and the pretty things, generally, considered pretty things in life. But what about the really ugly stuff like war and like has your perspective shifted about the really hard, ugly stuff?
my work when I'm not taking mushrooms, it's really all ugly.
Um,
I mean, so, and when I'm in that mushroom space, I banish that. I am just not going there, and I have never had the intrusive cannabis. Totally different subject, thing. I mean, that's why I stopped smoking it. I couldn't keep away from
mhm.
down those dark pathways. Um, I mean, but uh, I I set apart that when I'm with the mushroom, um, because I deal with that in my non-mushroom space. I
Mhm.
read the new. I used to be somewhat of a political activist.
Mhm.
Not anymore, and it had nothing to do with mushrooms. It's just like I'm too fucking old.
Mhm.
We've fucked everything up. My generation and the one before, and I'm leaving it up to younger people to do something. I feel like we're kind of broken vessels for that. Maybe
Mhm.
that's escapism or whatever, but what I do in my work is just try to stave off suffering from my clients. I love my clients. I mean, some of them are complete fucking problems. I mean, they are, they know.
Mhm.
I sometimes tell them that.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't go there with the mushrooms. That is not the place to go there. I don't think.
Mhm.
If you can compartmentalize that off, I think it makes for a better mushroom experience. And I think, you know, a better spiritual experience. We have to acknowledge, I mean, that there are things out there, and you get them in the mushroom space. Things are out there that don't mean you well. I mean, I run into them, but I can push them aside. Not now. I don't want to talk to you now. I don't want to deal with you now. And they go away. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, I think you're in control of your own mushroom experience to some degree if you know, just channel stuff, push it,
Mhm.
aside like a piece of ice coming at you. If you're out in a boat, push it aside with the paddle and keep going. Uh,
Mhm.
so I mean,
Well,
it's all happy and light for me. It is, it isn't, but
yeah.
that is not the place where I dwell on all the
It sounds like a big intention of yours in that space is to really focus on the light in the world, and that's like a recharge place for you.
That's a good
Yeah.
way to put it. And it
Mhm.
is. Yeah.
I would say though that um you are, I think, in many ways a great example for my generation. Seeing how just what you've shared so far, and how up until 1 year ago you were drinking consistently and escaping, or that's how I see it, just kind of like avoiding feeling. And you made a decision to not do that and to do something that was more nourishing for yourself and your life and the world. Um, because I do feel like no matter how old you are, your choices are having a great impact on the world. And just, I mean, just how many people will listen to this episode? I don't know how many, but it may be a lot. Um, and somebody could be in the middle of drinking right now, and just like,
Yeah.
or many people, um, and or just whatever, replace your, the habit of choice that's like a coping mechanism within that, and maybe see, okay, I'm not too old um,
Yeah.
to try something else.
Yeah. Um, and you're not. Um, and you do feel better. I mean, you do. And I
Mhm.
lost almost 50 pounds.
Wow, really?
I know. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I, s-
Wow.
well, I also stopped eating meat about the same time. And
Okay.
that was, you know, um, so I've been spending a lot more time exercise because you don't get up feeling like shit.
Mhm.
I get up, I feel like I can do stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It makes in it, you know, when I was young, I mean, I don't know, I can remember, you'd be up drinking till fucking 4 in the morning, and then you'd have to be at work at 8. I did it, you know, did it. Um, After a while, you can't do it anymore.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Sounds like you really been letting the light in. So how does this you mentioned being contemporary practicing contemporary paganism. I think that's how you put it. So how is that like intersected with the mushrooms?
well, you know what's in, I, I've been in various like groupings, people we got together and we do ritual. And, it's nature based, which is why I got into it. I hung around with a lot of druid people they're actually around, and they're good people. And in fact, I'm going to go hang with some this weekend. Um,
When you say druid people, could you describe
Druids,
a little bit about what that means for folks who may not
um,
be familiar?
the back in the day, the druid druids were like priests of the Celtic, pagan world. I'm talking about, when Julius Caesar and shit.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't think people know much about them, but they've been revived. And so you've got these groups
Hmm.
of people that do very deep nature meditation. Um, we get together for the the big seasonal holidays, us
Mhm.
on Imbolc, Beltane.
Mhm.
Um, there's some training involved. People, it reminds me of kind of the Masons. They do all
Mm.
stuff. I don't. I just I'm what it was adjacent or a fellow traveler or whatever. So,
Uh-huh.
um, so people, um, we worship nature. In a and I do. I have come to believe this, that trees and rocks and clouds and they have some personality. they're beings, and they're not human, and they're not, like us, but they are. And this comes back to this mushroom stuff in nature is, uh, I think you can in communicate on some level, and I think the mushrooms open, kick those doors open. I mean, they do. Um, I mean, I so
Hmm.
and it's the nature. I think, and the beliefs aren't all. What's it? There's no like dogma. So some people believe in gods, some don't. Some believe in, like a force or whatever. Um, I I don't even think that much about it. I just know that there's a lot of life on this planet that, and we're all meant to be here, and we all are connected, and we're all in this together. And we may fight. People do. I think I burn wood. I cut down trees and burn them.
Uh-huh.
You know, um, a bear tried to kill me. So these are things you just you got to accept as part of existence. And I believe that very possibly we get reincarnated into different, you might get reincarnated into a tree, a rock. That would be kind of depressing because they last for so long.
Well,
But you never know, you get turned into concrete. So I think if you meditate on that, and I came to this who knows? Because a lot of my formative experience was LSD and mushrooms, and I was a teen. So I don't know how much that wrote in, but, my fellow practitioners, I don't get together with them much anymore. So I live so far away, but we get together once a year, and it turns out I'm not the only one growing mushrooms. Once you talk about it, it's like, oh, I was doing that too. So, I mean, that was not the case 20 years ago. So I think, a lot there's an awakening going on. You guys, I mean, Sanctuary is a part of it. It is. So, um, and it's I think this might be a good thing. I would love to come back in 100 years and see what happened, where we are. I mean, I know I'm not going to in any kind of cogent way being able, so it's exciting time, really.
so when you're in the mushroom space, particularly, well, I say this, but it's not always true, but particularly when you have a higher dose communion with the mushroom, do you have any like otherworldly experiences or
Yeah, I mean, yes, I've been, you know, other places, no doubt. Like, um, I went this, I came to Mushroom Church one morning a while back after doing a kind of I turned out my scale was inaccurate, so I had taken more than I thought.
oh,
But I went, and then I came to Mushroom Church. I was way on the downslope by
it's a
then.
good place to go.
Early, right? But yeah, I've been, you know, I back to, like the beginning. I think, like, like, you know, I don't know, Big Bang or something. I've been back there, and then I was on Mars once, but that was acid, and that was a long time ago.
Oh,
I mean, there I was, and it wasn't bad. And I knew, I'm like, Jesus, you're on Mars. Um, and I was looking at Mars. It was outside on a winter night, and it's like I went up there. So
Mm.
you know that was, so, I don't think I really was, but this is one of these. We talk about space travel and stuff. As a society,
Mhm.
Elon Musk is going to go to Mars, whatever. I don't think we'll ever go, to these far reaches in ships or in vessels, but we'll go with our minds. We are going to, that is how, and we'll figure this out somehow.
Mhm.
And million years from now, who knows? Space is too vast for organic material to travel like that. I don't care what they do on Star Trek. But that is, and I think you can kind of get a taste of that with the mushrooms. I was thinking one day while I was in the space, um, what travels faster than light? It's your thoughts.
Mhm.
I mean, I can sit here and think about Beijing.
Mhm.
You're kind of there,
Mhm.
and then you're back. So I think we'll develop these things as a species as time goes on. If we live, if we don't fuck it up, which is a possibility. So
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Uh, Whatever happens, there seems to be no other way, is
yeah,
my belief. It's happening. So
we're, we're working
here we
through it.
are.
It's like rowing that boat, rowing in the fog. You're gonna hit land at some point, but you might not make it.
Yep.
But you keep hauling those fucking oars back and go.
Yeah.
Um,
So what about this has been a big topic of conversation in Sanctuary over the last year, is our Sacred Passage ministry, which is focusing on serving those individuals who are experiencing life-threatening illness or their families and caretakers who are right there with them. Um, and so this topic of death has been a big topic of discussion. Um, so I'm curious for you what your like when you think about that rite of passage for yourself, like what comes up for you?
well, I mean, having watched family members go from dementia, that's my freaking big fear.
Mhm.
I don't want to do that, and I want to be able to, excuse me, make my own decision about ending my life, if something like that
Yeah.
comes. And that's, I mean, that's heavy, but um, that other stuff, other, debilitating conditions, whatever. I think I could ride that out. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's the dementia that frightens me. Just watch,
Mhm.
you know. I mean, I can't, I can't be like that.
Mhm.
So, as my my, I I would be very interested in hearing. I've talked a little bit to Jason, but I'd be
Uh-huh.
very much, uh, you know, well, you can't talk to them after they've passed, but the, how the mushroom makes that passage more bearable. I mean, we're else
Mhm.
we can't. You can say, "Oh, I'm not afraid to die." Yeah, we are. Because it's
Mhm.
unknown. It's like you know, it's like going to a freaking lawyer dinner party where you don't know anyone. You don't want to fucking go in there.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, your dinner party. Oh,
you know,
yeah, that's it
you know,
sounds
fucking
you
go
could go different ways.
away. You know,
Yeah.
it's a feeling that's not good, but we got you got to accept it. Whatever. Uh,
Mhm. Well, I
I
think what you just brought up with dementia is so relatable. That's like the first thing I've been talking about. I've been bringing up this conversation a lot in my friend group. And because it's been such a big thing that we've been going through with Jason, who I interviewed, had 2 episodes interviewing him. Um, but dementia is the thing that comes up. That's like the first thing that most people say is, I just don't want to lose my mind, forget who everyone is. I just don't want to do that or think about that. And I do wonder what you talked about earlier with the mushrooms washing, like feeling like it's washing you, washing your brain. I I wonder often if that's I don't know, like if that could be a cleansing practice to prevent that.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
it's my gram. I was kind of her caretaker, and she got it. She had it bad, and she lived a long time with it. And the anxiety level that she had was because she was unmoored. You know, um, that's what I felt. I'm like, she'd call me like 17, 18 times a night, asking me the same question. You know,
Mm,
are we going to church tomorrow? I'm like, no, Graham, today's Monday. Oh, you know, and it's just this anxiety.
mhm,
She was in a place, a home, and that was, I don't know about those places either. You know,
mhm,
um, I used to pop in unannounced, and
mhm.
one time I couldn't find my fucking grandma. I couldn't find her. She was in someone else's bed.
Oh,
All somewhere, and that I'm like, where's Graham? And they all panicked. They put on a red alert or something. But that
yeah.
goes on all the time.
Mhm.
So, I mean that. So who knows? I mean, would I have gone and dosed Graham? I don't know. There's some ethics there, but in a way,
Uh-huh.
who the fuck cares at that point?
Mm,
What have
mhm,
you got to lose?
mhm,
You know, and with me, since my grandmother, she never took a drink of liquor in her whole life. Um, Never
mhm.
smoked a cigarette. But with me, I'm telling you, Courtney, if you find out that I'm in some friggin' asylum with dementia, you come up and and 5 grams of friggin' lemon tech, just dump it down my throat.
Okay.
Mission.
Okay. Yes, so then we can avoid the ethical dilemma.
Right.
Matthew told me to do this.
On
Okay.
video.
I
On
know
video.
right now, Matthew, when you don't know what's going on, but you in the past.
And then yeah, right. See how it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe you get up and walk out of that shell right into the beyond. And
Mhm.
that's that's what I want to do. I I do. I believe that I'm going to send out this article that I read to the Discord about,
Mhm.
and you may have heard of it. People, kids that are remembering past lives, little kids that
Mhm.
they have tracked down the past life that they're remembering.
Mhm.
I mean, so, I mean,
Yes.
so,
There's something with our son, we feel like something happened with the Titanic. but there's something going on there. He's like frequently waking up and remembering being on the Titanic and specifics about it sinking and like very specific memories that are very scary for him. And I
Oh,
hear stories. Yeah, yeah. So that's something that we're navigating and working through. But yeah, I hear stories like that
I'll send you
with
the link to
kids.
this article. I think
Yeah,
it's
I would love that.
Sun magazine. It's a good magazine. It's not like National Enquirer or something.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I mean, the kids grow out of it. I mean that it doesn't. It's as the brain develops, that goes away.
Mm,
But uh, but what it pointed out to me, is that um, I think we do. We we never really die. Our consciousness, it just moves out somewhere else. That's why
mhm,
I sit there. Oh my, especially if I'm out there on the mushrooms, I sit there,
mhm,
watch birds and especially birds. And I'm like, that would be cool to be a bird. I mean, other than
mhm.
shot and eat and stuff like that, but then you move on to something else, you become a fish. I don't know.
Yeah.
So uh,
Well, I know you've talked about this so much. So you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but you mentioned being almost eaten by a bear earlier. Would you consider that a near death experience for you?
oh
Or
yeah, you know,
I mean, how did your life change
oh,
after that?
it changed everything. It it knocked um it knocked me right fucking out. And I drank a lot after that. I wish I
Mhm,
hadn't, but I did. Um, and I wish I had not done that. But it was, you know, uh, the moment that and I knew that I was going to die. I mean, I knew it. There was no doubt. There was no hope. There was nothing. Uh,
mhm,
and that was fine. That was like, okay. It was almost like the same voice up on that hill that asked me why I was poisoning myself every night. Same
mhm,
voice when that fucking bear had me by the head, pulling me.
mhm,
That same voice was like, "You're gonna die," Same kind of voice. And then I knew it. It was okay. It was all right. So, you know, that made me it brought me some comfort to people that um, you know, that like have died in really bad situations, that they probably didn't suffer too much. That
mhm.
that the gates opened up, the doors opened, and you move on. And and I think that's how it's going to be. Um,
Hmm.
so that was, it changed me a lot. I don't. I don't have dreams. I didn't have any PTSD, which also makes me think I'm, kind of a fucking dumbass. I feel like I should be having PTSD. I should be in
Oh,
therapy. But I it's like whatever. I've been fine. You know,
yeah. You
after
started drinking after that, you said so?
I was drinking before that.
Oh, okay.
And that didn't help, friggin' it didn't help. And, that's when my wife stopped after a while. It got, both of us were not on the up and up. She had the fortitude to do the whole thing,
Mhm,
and I didn't. And she stuck with me. God bless her, you know.
mhm,
Um, so, but I went up there to make that Vice film with them. All these guys and gals, And I was sitting in a bar in Halifax with, I think, the producer, a nice guy named Wesley. And we were talking about it. And I said to him, the whole thing, I think how I kind of got through, that whole bear attack without being a basket case is that it was kind of like an LSD trip. And I always knew, I kept my center the whole time. And if you know this, in a real psychedelic room, you keep that core uh, consciousness that I am on mushrooms now. I am on LSD right now. It's gonna be over. It's not just just let it go. Don't fight. When a bear has, a polar bear, they have you by the head. There's no fighting. It's done. It is done. And it's like being out there, on a heavy sacrament dose. It's done. Keep your core. Keep the little, what was it they say in the Bible? The small, still voice. That stays in you. And maybe that's, the consciousness, the eternal. I don't know. So anyway.
Wow. Poof. Why did it leave you? Do you think the bear?
The Rich, one of the guys I was with, had this flare gun, and he shot it off, and I mean, even with my head in this fucking bear's mouth, I saw the flare go over. The light. Those freaking polar bears, they had probably never even seen a person before. I mean, we were fucking out there, I'm sure.
Wow.
They were watching us. They were. We should have done things so much different, and we did not. In grizzly bears, you're thinking black bears. They're not. They're just different than polar bears. Polar bears are a real hunter predator. Grizzlies, they're just walking around. They see you, they're fucking mad, and they'll whack you. But a polar bear, they hunt you, and that's, I gave up fishing after that. I can't kill shit anymore. I mean, flies and stuff, mosquitoes, but I can't do it because I've been there.
Yeah. You just go right there, right back there.
Yeah. And I see, I just don't want to do it no more. So I used to be quite efficient. Has no desire anymore. I eat them. I still eat them. I don't eat anything else anymore.
Okay.
But fish, you grew up on an island. It's just, can't give that up. Can't give up lobsters.
Yeah. That's illegal if you grew up in Maine. That's not right.
Yeah.
Wow. What a journey. Yeah, there is a Vice documentary out there folks can watch, right? I still haven't seen it.
Oh, I think it's still, I thought they did a good job. Did they tie in, climate change and everything? So it's not like a cheap adventure story. It's, you learn stuff and so it was good. And I think they did do a good job with it. And I had a blast up there with them. I mean, it was
nice. I'm glad you got the opportunity to work through that to some degree, I would imagine, by doing that documentary and talking about it.
Going right back the next summer. Yeah, that was, and it was, I mean, it was weird sailing in right where it happened. I'm like, holy shit. Cause you're thinking about that a lot,
Uh-huh.
Um,
It's
but
just
yeah,
there waiting for me.
oh, we saw all kinds of them. They're everywhere up there,
Wow.
but so anyway,
Wow.
um,
When I do like spirit animal meditations, well, in the past, it's been a while since this has happened, but I used to be shown polar bears um regularly. So I don't know what that means about me, but
powerful. I mean, the Inuit people up there back in the day, before they got Christianized, I mean, the polar bear was a deity, but it's also one they lived off. They made the clothes out of them. Uh,
okay. Huh.
they'd skin them out, and it looks like a human once the hides off them. So I think they thought
Really?
the shaman people could take on that
Mm.
cloak, that fur.
Uh-huh.
So uh, you know,
Well,
and those old indigenous, and here's as far as spirituality, it's pretty universal. Prior to what I would call the politicization or the power dynamic in religion. Before that, we were all animists, I think. I mean, we knew that the animals, trees, and stuff were uh, also spiritually invested, and we didn't necessarily have dominion over them. This these religious structures that came up as we civilized, right?
mhm. Yeah.
I think they really alienated us from the rest of uh, the world, the world that we. And I think it would be good to get back to that. That's what I try to do in my own
Mhm.
head. Get back to this wholeness of us within the living biosphere or whatever, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Instead of trying to control and controls it. I mean, all these living things, we all prey on each other. We all, use each other. If you die in the woods, you get decomposed by fungi, the bugs, and you get taken up into the tree. It's just
Mhm.
we burn the trees, we eat the animals, we eat the fish, we, you know, kill the bugs. Um, but it's all, it's not unnatural. What is unnatural is, I think, what they do with the big fucking farms, packing them
Mhm.
house and shit in there.
Mhm.
I don't know about that. So
Yeah, I can see how it's escalated quickly with technology building momentum and like just things starting to move quicker and quicker and um yeah, I can see how it's happened and like you at the same time I it feels like we are seeing the implications more and more. More people are willing to take a step back right now and feel that it's starting to feel not right. Like,
yeah,
ugh.
I hope. I mean, I hope, and I do. I do think rediscovering the psychedelic space is going to help that. I mean, I do think so. Not, you know, you look back at the, the whole 60s thing, which I am not, I love that shit. But, um, it was like things just busted out and LSD became a drug the same as heroin and cocaine. Um, and the same people did them all. I know. I mean, I never did heroin or anything, and I never liked cocaine, but that whole scene,
Mhm.
I'm not a 60s person, but late 70s, early 80s, that, um, it was all bunched in together, speed pills, and they're so different. It's like the psychedelics are not even like any of those things,
Mhm.
but they got mixed in and they got, clumped in with that stuff, which I don't think heroin and speed and cocaine should be legal because I've seen so many lives ruined by them. I mean,
Mhm.
people I knew, people I was close to, fucking dead. Cocaine especially. But you know, um, yeah, I don't know. But I
Mhm.
do think rediscovering in a thoughtful and spiritual. I mean, I think spiritual is kind of key here to opening
Mhm.
what this kind of stuff can do
Mhm.
for us as a culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So while we're imagining the future, and before we go, I want to hear from you what your specifically with like a mushroom community or a community like ours that practices with the mushroom intentionally, with the intention of like coming together with it, and recognizing the all in all of us. Like, what do you see in the future if you were to imagine this community growing? Like what more lies ahead that you would want to see?
I think with more kind of intentional practice and usage of the sacrament as a sacrament,
Mhm.
we can learn from each other because everyone's experiences are different, but kind of learn from, compare and contrast experiences, find some common thread that um, uh, that might or might not be there. I mean, you don't know. I don't think that's been done. I don't, even though I am proof that psilocybin anyway can help you overcome substance abuse issues. I don't think that should be the focus. I mean, uh, I don't know how to, you know, the whole. I think a church, a spiritual community, will be less apt to get sidetracked than a therapeutic
Mhm.
community. And
Mhm.
I don't. But what I see is people and doing, you know, because of my, the other interesting thing is incorporating into other spiritual traditions. I would be very interested to talk to Chris, and we don't do this a lot at Sanctuary. Something to think about. Um,
Mhm.
you know, people that are pretty Orthodox Christians. What experience do they get from the sacrament? Um,
Mhm.
you know, Muslim. I mean, people, if they maintain that, if that is their spiritual core, how does the
Mhm.
sacrament help them make sense of their spirituality? With me, I was brought up a Christian, but I left it. I no longer believe that system. I have my own system, which is nature, animism, nature worship. So,
Mhm.
my view of a ceremony would be like I do, you know, usually outside around a fire, um, constructing a ritual involving the four quarters and the, north, south, east, and west, and the movement of the sun and stars and stuff like that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's my spiritual practice
Mhm.
outside of psychedelics. Um, but I know there's people that would be devout Muslims or Jewish folk, spiritually orthodox or whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think it would be great to talk to, learn about that, how that is without the pressure to proselytize. That's the other.
Mhm.
Some of these, but not all. There are so many good Christians out there. I dump on them, because of, my past, and they're annoying fucking ass ones. But then there are so many good.
Mhm.
I met when I worked with a lot of Muslim folks, Somali Muslim folks. There was so many good people that would have been. I would, the spiritual stuff never would have flown with me, but
Mhm.
they were such good people that there's, you know, um, and Jewish folk, there's just
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, I love that vision, having um just more of an interfaith conversation sounds really nice. Because I feel like there's common themes within all religions that we can unite around and learn from in different ways and perspectives. Maybe more readings on Sunday services from different religions could
yeah. I mean,
help with that.
yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, imagine if we as a culture worldwide didn't focus on these divisions that really don't matter. I mean, uh, and that's where you get into this whole power and, oppression, I mean, that's one of the ways we're wired
Mhm.
as humans. I mean, we've been, go back until whenever, and we've been a problem. But it would be nice to somehow get beyond that. And you and I will not live to see that, but, can put a little, what is it? A little, brick in the structure,
Mhm. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for this awesome conversation. I'm really looking forward to people listening to it and hopefully commenting and asking some questions. And probably a lot of members from Sanctuary will listen and hopefully feel like they got to know you better.
Well, and thank you. Well, for one thing, for thinking of me, I'm very honored, and also thank you
Yes, and you
guys.
were nominated
I,
as
I,
well.
I don't
So
know. Am I allowed to ask who, or is that kind of gauche?
I would, I guess I would have to ask the person who nominated you. I
Um,
doubt they would care.
so, I think it's been a good space for me to be with you guys on a weekly basis, and I know it's not for everyone. I get it, but it has been for me. So I appreciate that a lot. And I'm
Mm.
the other class coming up this winter.
Oh, cool.
Um,
That would be amazing. Would love to have you there. I
right.
really appreciate you showing up consistently, and understandably everybody needs to take breaks sometimes and or figures out it's not right for them, and I honor that too, but it's really nice to have you recommending Sunday service readings or suggesting readings for Sunday services, and just really contributing, being a contributive part of the community. That's really good.
Means a lot.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. Bye-bye.